So in this video, I'm going to share 2 ways that many companies demotivate staff and how, if they just corrected these areas, staff would be more willing to do more for less, and what you can learn from this about how to motivate yourself to achieve your own goals. Have you ever done a job where you work incredibly hard on a project only to have the project cancelled, or the work just seems to disappear into the ether, or you wonder what the point is in you doing what you're being asked to do? Perhaps you see it as pointless. Many workplaces seem to have what staff feel are unnecessary systems and forms which prevent them from actually getting on with the real job. Maybe no one seems to care about what you're doing. Maybe you feel like you may as well not even be doing the job, feeling like no one would probably notice if you weren't even there. Or perhaps you feel that you're never acknowledged for the work that you do and the effort that you put into the job. Does any of that sound familiar? In a 2008 Journal of Economic Behaviour and Organisation paper, Man's Search for Meaning, The Case of Legos, by Dan Ariely and colleagues, participants were divided into 2 groups and given Bionicle's Lego to build. In the first group, they were asked if they would build a Lego Bionicle for a payment of $2. The participants in the group were told that each Bionicle built would be disassembled at the end of the experiment and put back into the box for the next participants. When the participants returned with their completed Bionicle, this was placed under the table to disassemble later, and those participants were asked if they would like to build another for $1.89. When those who said yes returned with their second completed Bionicle, this was also placed under the table, and they were asked if they wanted to build another for $1.78. When those who said yes to this returned with their third completed Bionicle, the process continued, with the completed one being placed under the table and the participant asked again whether they wanted to build another for 11 cents less than before. A second group of participants had a very similar task. They were also given Bionicles to build and also paid $2 for the first, $1.89 for the second, $1.78 for the third, etc. Their Bionicle was also dismantled, but unlike the first group of participants, their Bionicle was dismantled in front of them as soon as they started building the next one. If this was you, how do you think you would feel or react in these 2 different settings? Do you think that you'd build the same amount of Lego in both settings, or more in one setting than the other? Perhaps pause this just for a moment and let me know in the comments below before I reveal the outcome. At some point, participants obviously in both groups would reach that point where they would think, actually, I don't want to build any more Bionicles. On average, participants in the first group built 11 Bionicles and made a bit more than $14. The second group, who had the Lego dismantled in front of them, only built an average of 7 Bionicles. All of the Bionicles were going to be dismantled, but dismantling them in front of the second group took away the meaning for the participants who weren't especially interested in assembling Lego, leading to the second group losing motivation and not being willing to build the Bionicles for less money sooner than the first group. In a second experiment mentioned in Dan Ariely's book Payoff, 3 groups of participants were asked to carry out a task of finding identical letters next to each other on sheets of random letters. Participants were paid 55 cents for the first sheet of paper and 5 cents less for each subsequent sheet of paper that they completed. In the first group, participants wrote their name on the sheet and received acknowledgement for their work. The work was looked over and positive verbal noises were made before placing the sheet face down in a pile of completed sheets, and then the participant was asked if they wanted to complete another sheet for 5 cents less. The second group didn't write their name on the sheets and they had their work ignored. When they handed it in, the experimenter just took the sheet without looking at it and placed it face down on the pile and asked if they wanted to complete another sheet for 5 cents less. The third group didn't write their name on the sheet, and when they handed it in, the experimenter shredded the paper without acknowledging it or looking at it before asking them if they wanted to complete another sheet for 5 cents less. So again, thinking about this experiment and the 3 different conditions, how do you think you'd react in each of those situations? How do you feel? Do you think that you do the same amount of work in each setting? If you want, again, you can pause this and just share your answers in the comments before I reveal the outcome of the experiment. So, what was the outcome of the experiment? It probably won't come as any kind of surprise that the first group completed the most sheets, about 9 on average, and the group who had their work ignored and shredded completed the fewest amount of sheets, just under half as many, about 4 on average. But the question is, what was the impact of just ignoring? Was it closer to the acknowledged group or the shredded group, or somewhere in the middle? Those who had their work ignored completed about 5 sheets on average, so almost as few as the group who had their work shredded. Just taking away the acknowledgement or the recognition for the work done demotivated participants almost as much as shredding their work and making it seem totally meaningless. And what can be learned about motivating yourself and others from these 2 experiments? When it comes to motivating others, whether it's staff or if you're a coach or a therapist, maybe it's clients, or if you're a teacher or a parent, maybe you're motivating students or children. You want to think about how you can add meaning to the task and make sure that you'll acknowledge the person's efforts. The meaning doesn't have to be some kind of deep, profound meaning. The important thing is that if you remove that meaning, then you will very quickly remove the person's motivation. So, if in a workplace, staff are working together on a project and there's purpose and meaning to that project, perhaps something they'll be proud of or something which will help others in some way, if you end the project, maybe it's decided that the project isn't viable after all, then don't just tell the staff the project has been shelved, but make sure to acknowledge the time and effort and work that the staff put into the project. Perhaps highlight some of the learnings from the work that the staff did, which could perhaps be helpful in the future. You don't want to just rip the meaning away and leave the staff demotivated. Demotivated staff are more likely to put less effort into their work, more likely to take time off sick, more likely to be less disciplined with timekeeping. They're also more likely to seek out alternative employment, whereas motivated staff are more likely to put in time and effort, be less stressed and off sick far less, and also less likely to leave the job, even if there are other jobs paying a bit more for the same work. This is why it's so important that employers focus on how they're helping staff to have meaning in what they do, and that they receive acknowledgement and recognition for the work that they put into their role in the company. With clients in therapy or coaching, motivation is one of the biggest aspects of what you do. Part of this will be helping the client to want to make and stick to changed behaviour. This requires meaning. A client may well be thinking, but why should I bother? Or it sounds like too much effort, or it isn't worth it. If they have meaning, then this can keep them going even when they're struggling. They know why they want to achieve their goal. They know what it means to them. It could be that they're doing it to improve their health, or they're doing it to be able to be there for their kids, or to save their marriage, or to help their child to thrive. Every step, every challenge, everything that they do on their journey is supported and reinforced by the meaning that they have given to what it is that they're doing. And if you include acknowledging and recognizing the work that they're putting in, then this will help to keep them on track. Anyone who's ever watched me work will know that I'm always acknowledging effort and work that clients are putting into what it is that they're doing. If they're engaging, for example, with hypnosis, I'll say that's it or that's right whenever I see something that they're doing in the right direction. I want them to know that they're doing the correct thing and that I'm noticing this and encouraging and supporting them, that I'm with them on their journey, even when what they're doing is just a very small step. It could be that they've done a slightly longer out breath, or have relaxed their shoulders, or have just drifted into their mind slightly, and I'll acknowledge all this. During therapy or coaching, as they tell me what it is that they've done towards their goal since the last time I saw them, I'll acknowledge this. Even if they feel demotivated and don't believe that they've made any progress, or they're disappointed with the amount of progress they've made, I'll acknowledge that they coped, or the amount that they have achieved. Even if the only thing I can really acknowledge them for is the fact they've made it to this next session, and that'll be enough to help to keep them motivated to continue through the therapy. The same applies with teaching or parenting. You want to give a reason why something is worth learning or doing. How can it be helpful, or some other meaning? It could even be that the teaching is happening in the form of telling stories relating to the subject that they're engaged in learning about. And the story can contain meaning that makes what they're learning more memorable. And the focus of the teacher or the parent is on the effort, not the outcome. So you're acknowledging the effort someone puts in and what they've achieved to help them and motivate them to continue to learn and improve towards the outcome. When helping yourself, finding meaning and ways to acknowledge your work can help you to stay motivated. You want to know what the purpose is in what you're doing. Why should you bother to do what you're doing? How will you positively acknowledge or recognize progress or work that you put in? It could be, for example, that you want to lose or gain weight. And so you think about why you would want to do this. Is it for better health? Is it for looks? Is it for fitness? Why is this even important to you? It could be that you want better health for yourself. Perhaps you worry that you're currently at greater risk of certain health risks, and so you want to give yourself the best chance of living longer. Maybe wanting to be healthier and live longer for your children, and you want to be able to be around for them. Or it could even be that you have younger children, and so you want to be fitter to be able to interact with them better. Maybe you want to be fitter for yourself, aware that certain everyday tasks have you out of breath when they really shouldn't. Or you have a specific event coming up, like a charity run, which you want to get fitter for. Or for looks, it could be that you want to get into a specific shape for a wedding or for a holiday, that you're generally okay with your weight, but you would just like to make a small change just for that specific event. If you struggle, say, with social anxiety and want to overcome this, which would mean having to be motivated to perhaps do tasks which are well out of your comfort zone, like mixing with others, you can think about why this is important to you. What do you hope to gain from being able to socialise comfortably? And by identifying this and being able to keep this meaning in mind, that can help you to stay on track when you're perhaps anxious, putting yourself in social situations. The same with addictions. Why do you want to stop the addiction? Why is it important to you? Is it for your health? Is it for love of family or a partner or a child? Is it because you really want to do specific work, or to work or do something at a level or ability that you know you could do if only you weren't under the influence of a substance when you were doing that thing? If you want to achieve something like making a living from a new business, writing a novel, making a living on YouTube, or from e-courses, or from giving talks, or being hired by companies to do consulting work, again, why do you want to achieve this? What is going to keep you motivated and focused when you're putting in dozens of hours of work for perhaps very little to no pay. Obviously, something for another video is around knowing whether you're making progress and should keep going, or whether you should change paths. But assuming that you're on par with about where you would expect to be, what is it that's keeping you going? The meaning doesn't have to be profound, just compelling enough that it motivates you to want to keep working towards achieving your goals. As mentioned in the experiment examples, just seeing a completed Lego figure can motivate you to want to make the Bionicles. But if someone is going to destroy your work as soon as it's done, then the motivation is removed. An example from my own work life was when I was asked to create a parenting course. I spent many hours across a number of weeks developing the parenting course, only to have my manager tell me that we're going to go with another parenting course instead, without the manager even looking at the work that I had done. I liked developing the parenting course, carrying out the research, writing up the lessons and handouts. The meaning for me was going to be the completed document, and seeing that document and knowing that I was creating something which would be helpful to parents and would give staff something that they could teach to help even more parents and their children. The new course was obviously also going to help parents, but this experience initially took away my motivation to want to put in that kind of work for the company again. Obviously, I love learning and I love creating courses and being helpful, so if asked again, I would do the same, but I had to change the meaning a little, from linking it with work to linking it with myself. That if I worked on a course and, without them even looking at it, work decided actually they don't want what I've been working on, then I'd be focused perhaps on this being something I can develop further in my own time into a book or an e-course, perhaps something that I can do after I no longer am doing that job. It's also important to find ways to acknowledge the effort or work that you're putting in. Sometimes this comes from others, like people positively commenting on how you look if you've been losing or gaining a specific amount of weight, aiming towards a specific ideal weight, or commenting on you not carrying out certain addictive behaviours, or how well you seemed to do in a specific social situation. Or it could be something that you put in place, like finding little ways to celebrate sticking to a behaviour or a lifestyle change for specific periods of time. It's important that you're acknowledging the work that you put in, so the bits which are under your control, rather than prioritising the acknowledgement of outcomes which may be outside of your control. It doesn't mean you don't celebrate outcomes in some way, just that to keep motivated, you want to focus on acknowledging the effort, even when that effort doesn't perhaps hit a goal at the point that you would like. For example, I've been doing YouTube for nearly 16 years. In that time, I've had some outcomes that I've wanted to reach and acknowledged that it was positive when I reached those outcomes. These were things like when I reached a point where YouTube let me post videos longer than 10 minutes, when I reached the point where YouTube let me monetize my channel, when I reached 10,000 subscribers, and most recently when I reached 100,000 subscribers. But all of these outcomes are outside of my control. To do YouTube for so long requires motivation. I've seen so many people in my almost 16 years on YouTube start channels and then quit, usually within weeks or months, due to a lack of results, whereas I've kept going. What's motivated me has been focusing on the bits that are under my control. I want to release a specific number of videos over a specific time period. I want to make specific videos and see projects through to completion. I don't need any big acknowledgement. I like seeing my to-do list with ticks next to the entries, showing what I'd planned to do in a given time period and how much of that I actually completed. Writing lists of things that I want to do, like a list of individual projects, and then going through, achieving them and crossing them off, and making sure that each item on the list is just what I think I can achieve within a part of that month, if I choose to focus on it, and the number of projects on the list is about what I think I could achieve at a push across a month, where I have some essential projects and some would like to do projects, and have an expectation on myself to be happy if I get perhaps 70% of them completed. That for me keeps me going month after month, year after year. Here at the Mind Changers, we try to help you change your life by changing your mind. What do you think about the role of meaning and acknowledgement in motivation for yourself? Do you find these help you to stay motivated? Can you recognize times you haven't stayed motivated and how perhaps these areas were lacking? Or do you think that this information is helpful to you to change how you motivate yourself to do something that you currently want to actually do and be motivated to achieve? If you've got any thoughts, let me know in the comments below. And thank you for watching.